Hello and welcome to the latest YouTube video with Claire Greenhouse. Really pleased to have Claire here. Known Claire for quite a few years now and really rate what she does. Claire, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Nicola. I'm a nutrition coach, online nutrition coach, and personal trainer, and I help women mainly over 40 plus. If they're struggling with yo-yo dieting, or perimenopause, where they've put on weight and no matter what they do, they just can't seem to shift the weight anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, in a nutshell, that's what I do. I offer group coaching and I also do one-on-one coaching as well.
So it's interesting, isn't it? Because very much I'm about leadership and management, and unfortunately, there still is sometimes this culture where women are expected to look good, wear the makeup, dress in the high heels in the profession that they're in. Um, and interestingly, I saw a LinkedIn post around should women be allowed a tax exemption for clothes and makeup. Now, of course, the thinking there is really actually it's about changing mindsets, isn't it? Because it's you should be valued for who you are, what's inside you, and what you look like is not really relevant. But unfortunately, there's that much pressure on, isn't there?
There really is. I find that quite an astonishing post. That's the last thing I think a lot of busy professional women like want to think about is more about getting help off their husbands, sharing the housework, practical things like that. So I mean, I'm sure they would much more likely prefer that than, you know,
Absolutely. Yeah, but I
getting,
thought that was an interesting one to start with because it kind of took my breath away.
yeah,
And weirdly, or rather, not weirdly, rather in a good way, it did everybody else's too.
yeah.
So let's start with looking at workplace environments because they really can contribute to unhealthy eating habits. And especially for women over 40 anyway, who are really struggling in the first place. So, do you want to tell me a bit more about what your thoughts are around that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a lot of the women that I do coach are in sort of an office environment where they sat down for long periods of time. They've got family as well. So it really, senior positions which are quite stressful. So yeah, any environment can impact our eating habits. But in particular, workplace environments can definitely, working long hours, access to, high calorie foods. I remember when I was in an office, we had like a tuck shop drawer full of chocolates and crisps. It was out of sight, but you always, when you're hungry, and you might have skipped breakfast, for example, or not had a chance to prepare your meal the night before, your food the night before. It You are gonna lack the resilience then, and your willpower will give in because you're hungry. You're gonna go for the quick chocolate bar or packs of crisps. So
Yeah.
yeah, you know in any environment will massively impact your eating habits.
Yeah, because I can tell you a story around when I went to visit one office and apparently they had some contractors in there and these contractors were getting delivered every Friday a big platter of Danish pastries and lots of squashes and cordials
Yeah,
and they were really looked after. But what they didn't think of sending them was fruit. And there's also this thing is, oh no, I don't want fruit anyway. If you're going to give me something, treat me to something, I want a cake. And that's how
yeah.
we tend to think, isn't it? So it's very difficult to break that cycle. If we made bringing fruit in as a gift instead, wouldn't that be so much better?
Yeah, and I think again that's about the culture of your workplace as well. So I think if you've got like someone who's ordering the food who's more health conscious, then perhaps they'll look into more of like what they're purchasing. But yeah, it is very difficult when that happens to try and resist something which is really nice and it's in front of you as well.
Well, yeah, because you took me back to a memory of when I first started working in an office and like you're not moving as you said. And I remember there was a tuck shop, a cupboard, and it was locked, but when it got opened at certain times and everybody would be flocking to it. So
That's right. Yeah.
yeah, glad some things have changed because most places I've been to in the past few years don't have tuck shops anymore. So that's kind of a welcome relief, I think. So
Yeah, if it's not there, you've got to either go out and get something, so you might have more access then to healthier options,
that's
or
right.
you're prepared.
So, what do you think there are? What sort of common misconceptions do you think there are about healthy eating at work that you often encounter with your clients?
Yeah, I think a common misconception, really, not just in the workplace, is that, to eat healthy, you've got to be doing complicated meal plans, or, you have to cut out certain items of food, like, no carbs, for example. And you know, it's really not that complicated. And especially if you are confused by lots of other dieting club approaches, which most of my clients are,
Yeah,
they come to me feeling stuck and confused. So one of the things that we first get them to work on really is increasing their fiber and protein intake. So there's nothing is off limits. They've got the freedom to decide. So one of the things my clients will usually say when we first start working together is, this doesn't feel like a diet. And that's music to my ears because I don't
yeah,
want it to feel like a diet. It's not about eating as little as possible, it's about eating as much as you possibly can while still maintaining a calorie deficit to kind of lose weight and get to your goal.
yeah. Because there's this thing, isn't there, when you do slimming carb, um, you tend to be told you can't eat this, you can't eat that, and what happens is you can stick to it for a while, but then you get this uncontrollable urge, and then you go and eat too much of it. So it
Yeah.
really doesn't help you learn how to manage that food in your diet.
No, it really doesn't. It doesn't teach you, about your portion control. It doesn't kind of teach you about calories. Um, so I am a fan of actually getting my clients to learn and read food labels so that they can understand what's in the foods that they are eating. So there's no such thing as points or sins. It's just based on science and facts of, this is how many carbs, fat, and protein is in this item of food,
Yeah,
and then it goes from there.
yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because I don't think it till you start reading the package ingredients, which is
Yeah,
something I posted about the other day, was that I've got this packet of grated cheese. Now, yeah, I know that's been lazy, but I wanted convenience. So I
yeah,
bought this packet of cheese, didn't look at the ingredients, and couldn't believe it had got potato starch in it. And I was just like, wow, that's really not good.
yeah. It's surprising actually, when you do start reading labels, if you've got like an intolerance as well. My father's celiac, and you'd be surprised gluten is in so much as well.
Yeah, it is. It's in a lot. Okay, so how can hormonal changes in women over 40 affect their eating habits and weight management in a work setting?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting question. So hormones don't directly impact your ability to lose weight, but they do obviously impact your behavior and, for example, sleep. So, a lot of perimenopausal women will, struggle with their sleep,
Yeah.
usually interrupted sleep, and just not feel very rested. And then that can have a massive impact on your appetite and behavior. When we're tired, we've not slept well, we tend to go for, more hyperpalatable foods. So things that we can grab quickly chocolate, and other poor choices then. So yeah, and on top of that, a lot of women in their 40s are still balancing everything and expected to, look after the house, look after their children. They might have elderly parents to take care of as well. So all of that does have a massive impact just on their stress levels in general, and the fluctuating hormones um just makes everything more difficult.
Yeah, I would say, particularly when I got towards my 50s, then I was balancing. My children had grown up, but we were balancing the grandchildren and my mum and dad, their great grandparents, and it did feel draining, plus doing long days at work, and I was traveling 2 hours each way. So I wasn't really moving enough for a start, and that this is one of the things I'm grateful about now having my own business is that I can move and I can snack, which I find suits me better than just waiting for certain meal times.
Yeah,
So, and some places frown upon you eating at your desk. So you really have to, find out what the culture is there, what the work environment's like, whether you can eat at your desk. So if you're a snacker, then that might suit you better. I mean, there's all different thoughts around snacking or just proper meals or fasting. So much out there, Claire. It's a minefield to get through, isn't it?
yeah, it really is. And it doesn't help that you've got doctors now, like influencers, who are online, and they are pushing sort of one way of doing things, which should raise a red flag. So you might have one doctor pushing intermittent fasting, you might have another doctor pushing something else, and it really, I'm not a fan of any of those things. It should be really what suits the individual. So if you like to have your first meal a little bit later on in the day, then and you've always done it that way,
Yeah.
then I will kind of work with you around that. But yeah, I do kind of suggest as well like a higher protein breakfast. That's one of the most important things. High protein, high fiber breakfast, which will usually then keep you going up until, well, will keep you going up until lunch, rather than grabbing kind of sugary cereals and like
Yeah.
two pieces of toast.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting one, isn't it? Because what would you suggest as a high protein breakfast as a starting point?
Yeah, so it depends on whether you like kind of hot or cold breakfasts. I would imagine, most people are in a rush in the morning.
Yeah,
So my kind of go-to when I was working would either be a porridge I could put in the microwave when I could get to the office, with fruit, nuts, seeds, for example, or like an overnight oats.
yeah, love
I,
overnight oats.
yeah, so I never fancied cold oats, but I tried it when I was on a cruise once, and I absolutely loved the taste of it. So for me, what I will usually do as well to bump up the protein levels is add in, obviously milk, like a skimmed milk. I prefer that. Some either higher protein yogurt, a high protein yogurt, or um one of the other yogurts, without kind of the sweeteners in, a more natural yogurt.
Yeah,
But again, it's all about reading the labels, because Greek yogurts are not always as high in protein as some of the other natural yogurts.
yeah,
But yeah, that's easy to prepare the night before. You can add in your fruits, seeds, some nuts as well. So it's a really healthy, sustainable, will keep you, full
yeah. No, that's really
up
helpful.
until.
Okay, here's a good one for you, Claire. What are some quick and easy healthy snack options that women can keep at their desk to avoid unhealthy workplace treats? Because that is a minefield, definitely.
Yeah, again, I would look at why they're snacking as well, because again, it's usually that they're not having filling enough meals. So I would look at what it is, why you're snacking. Is it because of stress at work? Are you emotionally eating? Is it just out of habit? But if there's nothing wrong with having some snacks, but some of my go-to snacks would be baby bells because there's 5 grams of protein in a baby bell.
Yeah,
So, that's usually something that you could keep in your desk or keep in the fridge at work, as long as your colleagues don't pinch it. Yeah, so the low calorie cheeses like that are really good. Again, you could take in things like jerky. So that's usually a good high protein snack. So you've got like again more protein there. I'm just thinking you could, as an option, because most women do struggle to get enough protein and fiber into their diets, but you could have something like um some of the nut bars are okay. They are 200 calories, but you usually get around 10 grams of protein in a nut bar. So usually a bit better than a chocolate bar, for example. Same amount of calories, but no protein in most chocolate
yeah,
bars. Another thing you could look at getting some protein shakes. So they're around now in most supermarkets. Where the meal deal section is, they've got them there. Or you could kind of keep a protein shake in work, like a bigger tub and keep that. So
true. You could,
yeah,
yeah. So, um, because I think we're often told to eat fruit as snacks, and that doesn't keep you full for any length of time, does it?
yeah. I think the risk is when you start to snack, you're more likely to overeat then as well. So you're not satisfied with usually like most people will snack on chocolate or crisps, and that can kind of ignite the hunger more. So you tend to overeat then on those items as well.
Yeah,
So again, I'd be looking at, how many calories and how much fiber and protein is somebody having for breakfast. And are they having enough calories, fiber and protein to keep them sustained until their next meal?
yeah. No, that makes total sense. Thank you. Great. There's some solutions to help people with their snacking. Now, another one that can happen is women navigating social eating situations at work, like team lunches or office parties or going to the pub, like they sometimes say. And so, how can you, navigate that without compromising your health goals?
Yeah, so again, it would be looking, let's say you've got a buffet to choose from. I would be looking at anything with anything colourful that you could put on your plate. So fruits, vegetables, if that's an option, and pairing it up with some meat or sandwiches that contain meat or fish.
Yeah,
Tuna sandwiches, chicken sandwiches, for example. Chicken skewers sometimes as well. It tends to be more of the processed meats, but if you've got, any chicken slices or meat slices that you could have. And then kind of making sure as well, again, if you know that you're going to have a buffet for lunch, making sure that you do have a really high protein, high fiber breakfast. So perhaps then you're not overeating on, the beigey coloured foods, your sausage rolls and things like that.
yeah. I was going to say, does a sausage roll count for your protein?
It's probably not the highest and most best quality source of protein, but it's all okay in moderation.
Love it, because most people who talk about losing weight don't say that, do they? They say, no, no, you can't have that. And you're like, oh, but that's one of the things I really love. Now, I mean, because Claire, come on, let's talk about the fact that I love brownies. And when I was working with you, we got to that stage where I could have a brownie, but I would share it with my husband. And I still do that. That works really well w with
Yeah,
me.
that's
Um,
right. So it's
so
not about cutting things out, it's just finding to get it into your nutrition and adding in more of the stuff that you need so that you can have that as well.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, because when you can't have something, you really do start craving it then, and it gets worse
Yeah,
and worse till you have it. And then what tends to happen with a lot of people is they fall off the wagon and then they don't get back on it again because they think, oh, whoa, me, I've done it, I've ruined it. So what do you do when you get somebody in that situation with them?
Yeah, and I think this is like the beauty of coaching as well. You know, you take people through that journey. If they were on their own, they would still be stuck in that cycle. You know, we can just having a brownie isn't going to ruin everything. So, you know, it's a very small percentage of everything else that you've done throughout the day. So yeah, it's just about educating people really that, you know, a brownie, what would it be? Like 300-400 calories, depending on the
Yeah,
size,
yeah.
you know,
Well,
so
I
if
can
you
remember one of the members coming into the group Facebook and saying that they'd had a lot of calories that one day. And your response was, that's fine. Just think about it, balance it out across the week or the month, and it becomes quite insignificant. It's when it's just a one-off, it's fine. It's when you keep
yeah,
doing it, isn't it?
it really is. Yeah. So, you know, I always try and say to clients, think of it across a week rather than day by day, because some days we're busier than others and we're not going to be consuming so many calories. Whereas, you know, when it's the weekend, usually, and we've got downtime, we tend to consume more calories.
Yeah.
So it's just about how it balances out across the week.
Yeah, and I like the way when we were doing it that was I had less in the week and more at the weekend for my way of coping. So yeah,
Yeah,
and that's one of the beauties of working with a coach, isn't it? Working with somebody like you because you will help people find that way through that works best for them and their lifestyle.
yeah, absolutely. And that's where the personalization comes into it as well.
Yeah, yeah, it makes total sense. What role do you think stress has in playing into the workplace eating habits? Do you think it affects women in the workplace?
Yeah, I think it can go one of two ways, really. Either you're an emotional eater, or stress might actually have the opposite effect on you, where you kind of, if you're not running on adrenaline and, you know, you might forget to eat, or you might just be so wired that you don't
Yeah.
feel like eating and kind of forget to eat. Um, so yeah, it's interesting. I would say probably most of the women that I coach are emotional eaters.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I think that's predominantly what I see, and I see a lot of women with anxiety, and which leads to the stress, and it's a comfort, isn't it? That's how they
yeah,
perceive food as a comfort. And of course, immediately afterwards, then you have your dip again. So getting some personalized coaching can really help with that as well, can't it? And I know that you have some videos around emotional eating as well, don't you?
yeah. So I've kind of developed a emotional eating sort of mini course as well, as part of the coaching, which just helps build up a little bit more resilience and
Yeah.
kind of changes your perspective on it.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant. So, how can women build and maintain muscle mass through their diet while at work, considering the challenges of age-related muscle loss?
Yeah, so there's two ways that we can build muscle, and that is through strength training.
Yeah,
But you can also have a big impact, especially if you're trying to lose weight and you're in a calorie deficit. If you are not increasing your protein levels, you will be losing a lot of lean muscle. So what we really need to focus on, especially if you're in a calorie deficit, is increasing again your protein and your fiber intake, both really important. So yeah, generally as a rule, I would say most women, especially as we get older, because we do lose muscle as we get older, we need to be trying to hit around 100 grams of protein each day. If you're not sure what that looks like, a chicken breast would be an average size chicken breast would be around 25 grams of protein. An egg, you've got 7 grams of protein in like a medium sized egg. Baby bell, 5 grams of protein. So it's, you know, the main sources of protein are going to be from meat, obviously, but you can also get it from plant protein as well. So it's really good to add in, you know, a lot of plants into our nutrition. So one of the best ones is things like chickpeas, lentils, beans, adding in those to your meals. I know you're smiling because I know you don't like them, but I don't think they taste of anything, Nicola.
Yeah, vile, vile. That's all I'm gonna say.
If you mix it in with things, spices, things like that, you
Yeah,
can
you won't notice.
disguise.
But bear in mind, I can't have spices, so that kind of
Okay.
ruins it for everything, doesn't it?
All
So,
right.
so yeah, there's some really good suggestions there, and it's interesting because we think, oh, 100 grams, that's easy to do, but having persevered for weeks and
Yeah,
weeks, I could only ever get up to about 70 or 80 grams, and I really struggled. So it
that's
just
quite
goes to
good
show,
though. That's not too bad at all because, most, I think before you were working with me, is probably a lot lower, wasn't it? Most women that I coach when they start are on like 50. And if you're
yeah.
vegetarian, even you'd be looking at 30 grams of
I should
protein a
say,
day.
yeah, I wouldn't like to say what it is at the moment, but we won't go there. But
Okay.
um, yeah, it's a really interesting one. And I mean, for me, I think the chicken breasts were the arts because, like, well, I'd rather, that's something you can have and it's quite high, so that's worth doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, evening meals are always well catered for with protein. I think most people will have
Yeah,
some sort of
easily.
meat. It's the breakfast and lunch that can be the issue. Breakfast especially because people are just so
I
busy in the mornings.
You got me thinking because when I used to work in Nottingham, I used to stop at the local co-op as I came out of the station, and they had this little salad that with salmon on it, and I should say it was probably quite high in protein, and I always had that salmon salad. It was cold salmon. I hate salmon normally, but I like that one for some reason,
Okay.
and I would have that, and that would keep me full for all afternoon. So there
Yeah.
must have been quite a bit of salmon protein in that.
Yeah. Well, that type of protein as well is really good because it's got healthy fats in. So, you're hitting one bird with, no, what's the saying?
Yeah, don't ask me for sayings, but
You're
yeah,
hitting two birds with one stone, isn't
that's
it? So yeah, it's good that, if we should be trying to get in like two sources of oily fish in our nutrition a week as well.
okay. So now's the last question for you. What advice do you have for women who feel stuck in a cycle of yo-yo dieting due to workplace eating habits? How can they break this cycle?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm biased, but I would be working with someone who's got a minimum of a level 4 nutrition qualification. PTs will say that they qualified in nutrition, but they're not. So I would be working fat loss is controlled through your nutrition. We all need to be exercising to keep our bones, muscle healthy. There's unlimited benefits with exercise, but I would say if you have got to the stage where you are really unhappy with your weight, how you feel and how you look is impacting other areas and is, stopping you from living your life to the full, then get help, get qualified, somebody qualified to help you. Look for a nutrition coach or if you've got medical issues, you might need a dietitian to help you as well. When you go to slimming clubs, the dieting club worlds, Weight Watchers, Slimming World, they're not qualified.
And I would really recommend talking to you because you're very approachable and totally makes sense with what you say. So, if you're listening to this, Claire, you're going to share how to get in touch with you now, aren't you? So that they can, and I'll put it in the YouTube description as well for everybody.
Yep. So my website, I'll just because I've recently rebranded. So my website is clearnutritioncoach.co.uk. And then if you go to the contact page there, all my details are there. Or um, you can email me, which is claire@clearnutritioncoach.co.uk.
Okay.
So they're usually the best ways to get hold of me. And on there as well, on my website, you can WhatsApp me. So my contact number is on there as well. Um, so yeah,
And have you got a freebie on there by any chance?
yeah. So I've got a free guide, which is 5 secrets to fat loss for women over 40.
Okay, brilliant.
So if you sign up to my emails, that's where I give the best offers, rather than, my social media. Or you can, follow me on social media as well. It's all on my website.
Okay, that's brilliant. That's good. It's a really comprehensive website. So I really appreciate your time today, Claire. Thank you so much. Lots more I could probably have asked you, but I think you've given some ideas to the people listening of what they can do for breakfasts, etc., and how much protein they actually need to be taking. So let's
Yeah.
hope it helps the few people out there and they know where you are if they want to contact you. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Nicola.
Thank you.